Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live Studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey, it's Michael here with Oilers Live. Had a little bit of audio problems, some audio issues before we started the show, so we're a few minutes late. Thank you for joining. If you're still there, thank you for listening on the drive home. I think we're now on iHeartRadio as well as TuneIn. So great to have a bunch of people there. As a friend of Edmonton Sports Talk, thanks to Dusty and the gang for letting us be here. You can also find us and you can interact with us on youtube.ca/Heavy Hockey. We're on Twitter at Heavy Hockey Net. You'll find us there. I've got a couple of guests lined up today. I've got good friend and fellow Heavy Hockey Network writer. Well, I'd say fellow writer, except I don't do a lot of writing. Mr. Ryan Lotsberg in the first half, and then we've got Bob the goalie to join us on the second half. How you doing, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, Michael. How are you doing?
I am doing just great. I was hoping that we could set up. I know some of you are listening in on TuneIn or iHeart. It looks like there's a few, and my audio is probably pretty low. We'll just have to make do. I do have a fix. It's just that I couldn't get it done before broadcasting time. So it is what it is. If you want to hear it as good as can be, come to youtube.ca/Heavy Hockey. You'll hear us there. Yeah, I'm doing really well. So I thought how we do this today. I've got you for a little bit of a limited time now. I cut in about 10 minutes into your schedule. But let's recap the Heavy Hockey Showdown. Maybe talk about the games that have occurred since last Wednesday when we were on the air, when Oilers Live was on the air. And then we'll talk about a couple of the upcoming games. Specifically tomorrow night, which is St. Louis Blues, and talk about what the Oilers need to do. And if we got time, let's talk some trade deadline and some of the things there. Let's start first with the Heavy Hockey Showdown. Let's see that jersey. Stand up, if you will, for those on radio.
Back it up here.
Yeah, those on radio can't see, but I want to point this out. This is great. We've got Flirt Cupcakes, Nice Agents, and Turtle Island Technology Solutions that were the three sponsors. So that's absolutely great that they could do that. And it was great. The jerseys looked great. The Edmonton Sports Talk looked good. Everything looked good. How was the game? How many goals did you end up scoring?
Yeah, it was. I ended up getting a hattie throughout the day, so I was pumped about that. Last year I was useless out there. I didn't get any points at even, I don't think. But it was nice to hit the score sheet this year.
Yeah, well, you had been training for a while. So
yes, sir.
So that's good. I should point out before I forget, there's a couple other sponsors that aren't on there that were as equally as important. A major sponsor in Yates Whitaker LLP, an accounting firm, and then DAD Sales was one of the gold sponsors, and they actually sponsored the Zebras. We had 4 officials out for the game, and DAD Sales came to bat and got those jerseys for them, which is absolutely awesome. Okay, now back to so you got the hattie. You'd been training for the game. You look good out there. You found some good line mates, some chemistry early. It was good.
Yeah, we ran it back from last year. I played with Durst and Glenn. It was a good group last year, and we had good chemistry again this year. And yeah, it worked out for us this year, I think.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun watching you guys out there, watching you play. I'm obviously I'm on the committee, so I've got something, I've got some bearing as to, how things go, but you're kind of outside of being part of Heavy Hockey Network, you're a bit on the outside looking in. And so you're a participant like everybody else. What was your experience of the game? I'll just ask it. Maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to ask, what would you have done differently if you could? And what was the highlight for you?
Well, let me start with the highlight. It's just having my family in the stands and being able to put on a show. That was fun. And just being involved in such a great cause. Like it's special to just to be part of the community like that and to do something that's really impactful. And yeah, that was just it met so many great new people too, and saw a whole bunch of people that are fantastic from Twitter. So it's just the whole weekend was fantastic. Um, as far as the game itself, or did you want to say something? You look like you want to say something.
No, I was going to ask probably what you're going to get to right now. Like, what would you have done differently, or what would you add if not done differently? What might you add to it?
Yeah, like just talking to some other people that were in the stands too. Like I know my family was halfway out the door after the third period. It's like halfway through the second game. So I think they were a little confused as to what was happening, but my dad clued in and let everybody know, hey, there's still another period left. And like I know somebody else was saying that having the goalies switch sides, which I think that was the right thing to do competitively. It's just they were wearing the same jerseys as everybody else, so it was a little confusing for some people in the stands. But
I had considered getting them half jerseys.
Oh yeah,
like yeah. It was.
I was thinking like having their own like neutral special jerseys, or I don't know.
We could definitely do a goaltender jersey, right? A special goaltender jersey. Yeah, you know what? That's maybe even a better idea than the half jerseys. That's good. Yeah. No, those are good. Good insights. Yeah, I thought. I obviously, yeah, we could probably put, something for the fans to understand how how it's going to go. I mean, this was our first time doing 3 hours of on ice, so it was a little bit of a learning experience for us. And you know what, we fit it in perfectly. We might have, if I could do anything differently, it'd be to have the trophies actually in the building. It's like,
that's an obvious one.
Slight gaff there. Yeah. Well, I want to say this, like, I'm because you mentioned it, and I want to make sure that it's true. I mean, were we able to relay the impact that the dollars went to? Was it understandable, and did you get the feeling that you really were playing for something sort of bigger than yourself and like a really meaningful charity?
I mean, everybody involved did such a great job of putting the message out there and getting it out there. And I know people on Twitter were inundated with messaging about the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton and our fundraising. So I think we did a good job, but like we can always do better, right? Like I don't think we can say enough about the importance of the work that SACE does for the people that it helps. So yeah, I know next year's just going to be even bigger and better in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Excellent. Great feedback, and good to hear from a participant of the game and have you on here today. That was part of the reason why I asked you specifically to be here, just to hear kind of how you ended up yesterday. It was as I mentioned, and for those on here. Lotzi played awesome. I mean, Hattie looked good out there. Team was flying. He did a couple of Savardian spinoramas. I'm not sure they ended up on anybody's stick, but it's all good.
I end up on my butt more often than pucks ended up on tape.
No, it was a lot of fun, and before we're gonna move on to Oilers hockey, which is why most people tune in, and they have been inundated with news of the Heavy Hockey Showdown. Everybody was great in the support. It was so amazing to see. If you're on Twitter, I mean, you had to be in a cave somewhere if you didn't know this happened. City News came out. It was it was everything. I haven't been able to find it. I'm not sure it happened, but I heard that there was some mention of the showdown either on the Oilers broadcast or maybe on the radio yesterday as well, the Oilers radio broadcast. It's hard to say. So that's awesome. Again, if you can, go out and support those sponsors. Yates Whitaker, LLP, Turtle Island Technology Solutions, Flirt Cupcakes, everybody knows or should know, absolutely delicious cupcakes. DAD Sales and niceagents.ca also popped up to help sponsor the jerseys. So we got a lot of great sponsors. And one last thing is we've got a chance to make 50,000. Now we're at 40,000, but I've got a donor that said they would match that last 5,000. If we can get to 45,000 in the next couple of days, we can get a match for 5,000 more. See, you're getting chirped in the chat already. Get matched for 5,000 more, and we can hit 50,000, and that would be an incredible mark to hit this year. Considering our goal was 20,000, we've already doubled that. Let's make it 50. So if you're listening, if you're tuning in, if you're listening to the recording of this, whatever you're doing, if you can go reach out to me at Oilerslive on Twitter, reach out to Dash, who's not here today, at Dash in the Park on Twitter, message me at showdownsponsor@heavyhockey.com. Do one of those, and let's get this to 50,000. We've got a couple days to do this, but we need your help. I feel a lot like I referenced this at the pre-party, but I feel a lot like Telemiracle in Saskatchewan, like ring those phones. So yeah, ring those phones. Let's get that extra 5,000 on the board, and then we can hit 50,000. So this is a big deal. I want to get to 50,000. When we get to the 50,000, assuming that sponsor is going to be there, we'll tell you who that sponsor is, because it is a remarkable and very generous offer that they've made. But I don't want to put them on the spot unless we get to the 45. So let's do that. We're about 5,000 away. We need to get there. Let's do that. All right, let's talk some Oilers hockey. Well, first, we can't go without saying Bob the goalie's feeling a little bit left out. Of course, he's here 5:45 tonight. Bob says, no mention of the apple from the Schmidt show. Lotzi.
It wasn't just the one apple from the Schmidt show. There were lots of nice passes out there from you, Bobby. So I appreciate that.
I must have missed those. All good. We got time to chirp Bob later in the show at 5:45. Make sure you're here. Tune in. We'll have some goalie talk, among other things, and there's lots to talk about as far as the goaltending situation goes with the Oilers. Let's talk with the game that I know you were at, because I was sitting right behind you.
Yeah.
Which is the Battle of Alberta. Oilers versus Calgary, the Calgary Flames. I don't know, off the rails early. That's the best way to put it.
They were never in it. You had a hand sticking up from the grave about halfway through the game there, but they were never really truly in that one. Like Calgary, that was Calgary's night from the start.
Now I'm listening to yesterday, post Heavy Hockey Showdown. I'm listening to Dusty. I'm listening to a couple of other podcasts, and there was one of the few games where people said like the leaders were kind of not there for the Oilers, right? Like McDavid just, right from the start, just seemed to be off of his game. It's hard. You got to call it out, because it wasn't a great game for McDavid. I thought Draisaitl played all right, but he could have played better. But it's maybe one of the worst games McDavid's had this whole year, right? Seemed to be off. Maybe Kadri's getting on him. Who knows what was going on? Just didn't seem to have it together. I guess we could forgive one game out of 82, right? For a guy that's already put up 91 points on the season.
Yeah,
thought so.
Yeah, McDavid got beat inside by Kadri on the first goal. That was pretty early in the game. What was that, like 2 minutes in?
Yeah.
So that kind of set the tone for the night. And like you could tell McDavid was frustrated at that one. He knew he got beat there. And Coleman dumped him on his butt. And then Janmark filled in Coleman, which was probably the highlight of the night. But no, McDavid didn't have it. So, but what I saw from high above is the defensive structure is a long cry, a far cry from what it was shortly after Chris Knobloch got hired. Guys are running around all over the place. It's hard to tell if they're trying to play man or zone, but we know they're trying to play zone. So that's never, if you're unsure, that means they're doing a poor job of playing zone. In Calgary, they were really good on the forecheck, and they did a great job of clogging up the neutral zone and standing us up at their blue line. We couldn't get any sort of possession in the offensive zone for any length of time. So, I mean, yeah, you expect more out of McDavid. Draisaitl took a horrible penalty that was viewed as selfish, which, sure, whatever. It was just a bad penalty.
Yeah.
You want more from your leaders. But the whole team, just the systems and execution standpoint, like they were just awful.
Yeah, it was. I do think the Draisaitl penalty it's typical Draisaitl, though. I mean, he's not, that's nothing new in a game like that. I mean, he will take the odd selfish penalty. We've come to expect that, I think, over time, right? And I mean, you typically, I think you can know that the game's kind of got out of hand when Draisaitl's taking those types of penalties. The Oilers just didn't have it together. I mean, they couldn't seem to make a pass, for one. I mean, it wasn't just about defense. I mean, you can't blame the defense if all you're doing is in your zone. I mean, we couldn't even break out of our zone when we did have possession. If we won a puck battle in the zone and we couldn't get out of the zone, it was awful. Probably the part that concerns me about that is like if you got to choose games to get up for, right? Like, and that was, that's the Battle of Alberta. I mean, what more do you want to get up for, right? Battle of Alberta on Hockey Night in Canada. You just lost what should have been yours, a game against Minnesota. I just expected a little bit more fire from this team, and we didn't get it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we didn't get any fire.
No, and I think that's totally merited, but at the same time, it was their third and four nights. It's like I understand being a little tired. I mean, I'm feeling it today after playing one game on Sunday. But these guys are pro athletes, and you expect a little bit more in that situation for sure. But like you're talking about the breakouts, like they had absolutely no speed when they did have the pucks. Like I don't know if that's something Calgary was doing to defend it. I don't know if that's tiredness. I don't know if that's just poor execution of the breakout system, but they just didn't have it.
Yeah. You're right. Like they had no speed coming out of the zone, and it looked awful. Okay, let's I mean we can digest all of that and look at that game and write it off. It was a stinker. I thought they actually and it sounds like the same kind of talk we had at the beginning of the season, which was I thought they played a good game, but they didn't win. I thought they played two really good games prior to that and didn't win. Right? Yeah. Like I thought they in my opinion, the only place they didn't dominate Minnesota was on the score sheet. Right? Yeah. Like it was 43 shots to, I don't know, 26.
I think they got to 20.
Yeah. Boston, that to me was a like an error in overtime that should not have happened. Right. Like I don't know why I still, I looked at it again. I don't know why they didn't chase the puck, at least to make sure that the icing didn't happen. You could have changed two guys while you're chasing the puck. And then I don't know, you know what I mean? Right. Like, so then that happens. You got guys out that are tired and not the right guys for the overtime. So we were destined to lose that after that icing happened. And then you come and you give this like the winnable game out of the three, I thought, and then you give nothing. Maybe they were just spent. Maybe you're right. Maybe they, had put out a good effort in two of the three games, and they were just spent. And then we get to last night, the LA Kings. It looked early like it was going to be more of the same.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I always think that I will. I think, I'm going to shut this off. Like, I can't bear to watch it, but I never do. I always sit
through
through
a decade of darkness. I don't check games.
I know. I sat through 10 years of this. I'm going to sit through 20 minutes. But they turned it around, and I thought they looked good defensively for the first time since the All-Star break in the second and third period. Your thoughts?
I would agree with that. I noticed it early on that the zone looked a lot tighter. They got back to that little box formation that they do. They did a better job of coveting the slot area, protecting that with a little more urgency. And they made it harder for the Kings to generate any chances. It's like they still got a couple, obviously, but damage was limited. They just looked more connected in the defensive zone, which I think is the big difference.
Yeah, they did. That's a great way to put it. They looked connected in the zone. They, they did a lot of things. This was not. There was at no point did I think that the Oilers were running away with it, like where they were dominating anything, right?
Yeah.
But they played it. But they played a solid game. And, these are the types of games I think won them games during the 16, the great run of 16, where they just stuck to the fundamentals. And what's interesting about this is I didn't know what to expect. And I thought after about midway through the first, I thought we were going to have more of the Flames Oilers. Tommy Gazzola on Edmonton Sports Talk, he said Oilers didn't look like they had a lot of jump in practice.
Right.
And they certainly didn't have a lot of jump when they came out. So I don't know what happened, but they seemed to get back, and they kept it. They kept like a simple game, right? And against guys that were no different than Kadri and the rest of the Flames crew. Like these are, Doughty's gets in this under the skin of everybody he plays against just as much as Kadri does. So McDavid didn't fall for that, right? He kept going, and they were on him most of the night. I just loved how the team, they didn't look super flashy last night, right? Like everything just seemed to come together. Hyman, though, like this guy.
He's been unreal.
Man, he's my vote for Hart Trophy. That's like, I mean,
he's tied for third in the league in goals. You look at the names on the list above him, and it's like one of these things is not like the other. But he's proven he belongs there right now.
Well, and he comes to play, and I've said this before. He comes to play every night, right? He was the highlight of the Flames Alberta Battle of Alberta game, right?
Yep.
Like he was the highlight. He comes to play every single night. You know what you're going to get. Again, he's kind of he's different than Bouchard, but in how he stick handles and he moves the puck, you don't expect him to get far with it, but somehow he's sneaky and gets around people, right?
Yeah, like he's not toe dragging people. He's not doing the spinoramas or nothing. He just checks the puck well and he commits. He picks his spot and he hits it. Like the running back
is probably the best way to put it. Yeah, that's great way to think about it. He does. He commits to everything. If he's going to the net, he commits to it. That's a great way to put it. And he's committed to the game. Like he has been, I think Stauffer said it in an intermission. Like that's the best signing the Oilers have had.
That's tough to argue. That's a value
It is.
contract. That's a real
It is a value
contract.
contract. And, he's obviously, and, knock on wood, but he's obviously going to hit 40 goals this year, which
Yeah.
is ridiculous, right? I mean, I can't recall what we said in the preseason show, but I guarantee I didn't think 40 for Hyman.
No, I was thinking,
Yeah.
I think most of us were comfortable going over 30. I think he was
Yeah.
mid 30s last year. I don't remember exactly, but 40 plus, pushing 50 maybe.
Well, we'd be happy with the mid 30 season from
Yeah,
Hyman,
absolutely.
and that's nothing to scoff at. Look at Draisaitl. He just hit 30, or is he at 29 still? I think he's at 29. He'll hit 30 for his sixth season in a row at 30 points. Dursa, 97 octane, says going to take a run at 50 for Hyman.
Yeah, he'll push.
And he is.
Yeah.
He's legit. He's on pace, right? I think. Is he on pace for 50?
I think he's still on pace.
It's unreal. Zach Hyman.
And he's doing it in different ways too. Like you think of Zach Hyman, you think Grease, you think dirty, right? But he's scoring these breakaway backhand shelf against Calgary, one timer against LA yesterday. Like he's finding spots where he needs to be, and he's making plays.
He is making plays. He's as you said, committing to every play. He I mean they're all like he's never scored a goal from more than 3 feet out. Granted, right? Like, but
last night he did.
Okay, last night he did.
But that's what I'm saying though. Like you don't think of it, right?
It is a rarity for him to.
It is a rarity. But like he's doing things that you don't necessarily expect him to do this year.
Look, I look at him and I think the guy and Dursa would like this, but I think about like Ryan Smith, right? Like a guy who's made his living around the net. But they're two different players. And I think Hyman, from a skill level, has just proved himself to be that much better, right? Like, this is like, I think to your point, there's a lot of things Hyman does well that aren't in front of the net. Right. He's what I think we'd hoped we would get from Yamamoto at some point as he grew up, right, in the league, right? Like a guy that could chase down the puck and keep it in the zone for a little bit rather than, and score, right?
Yeah.
Get some points, do all of those things. Hyman's done all of that. Like he is, he chases the puck down, he gets in there, he keeps the puck in the zone. He's able to play with McDavid at his level and be where he needs to be. But like people think, he's just, like pucks are deflecting off of him because he's in the right spot.
Yeah.
Right. Like he sneaks in there and he's in the right spot over and over and over again.
Like I had a lot of pucks bounce to me on Sunday that didn't go in for me. Not quite in the right spot.
It's awesome. And to confirm, Draisaitl is at 29 goals. I remember that. He's closing in on 30, which I'm sure he'll get soon enough. Knock on wood. Now, I mentioned that the Oilers needed to get up for a game at Battle of Alberta. Thoughts on last night? Is that, does that play into why second and third period they seem to wake up a little bit and put it together? Like, is this because LA is right there now, right on their heels? This was a meaningful game. This was a 4-point swing that, gives the Oilers a little bit of a break, and they still have a game in hand over the Kings, and they're 2 points ahead.
Yeah, it was a big game. Like if they weren't thinking about that in the room, like they needed to have been. Like that was a big, big win. Because you said it, Kings are on our heels. They're only 2 points back coming into last night. It's a 4-point swing game. We've struggled a little bit lately, so I think we've pissed some of our games in hand away, right? So that was a big 2 points against a division rival that's on our heels.
Huge, and it's it's 2 points that we gain, right? We're a point now behind Vegas with 2 games in hand. In fact, we're 12 points behind Vancouver with 4 games in hand.
So
Like
I mean, even that Vancouver situation looked a little bit better a week ago, but like that's still within reach.
It is within reach. I mean, Vancouver right now is 4-5-1 in their last 10. I mean, we're only 5-4-1, granted.
Yep.
But
we didn't take advantage of an opportunity to gain
Yeah.
some ground on Vancouver this last week, but it is what it is.
so this streak since the All-Star break, I mean, it gives the it really kind of gives the Oilers this feeling now, right? Like they've got it. They can look at the team. I think management looks at the team. They can start to decide, the when and the how of what the trade deadline is going to look like. What do you think? I mean, are we still looking for the same things we were looking for pre All-Star break that we're looking for now, or has that changed?
I don't think anything should have changed based on the last month or so here, or ever since the All-Star break. Like we know that the secondary scoring is an option, or depth scoring, is something that needs to be worked on. And I think most people out there are on the same page and thinking that if you're going to upgrade something on defense, Cody Cece's spot is kind of the spot where you need to upgrade. Like the Ekholm-Bouchard pairing has been fantastic, and the underlying numbers with Kulak and Desharnais are fantastic as well. Like they're in the top 10 in the league in expected goals percentage, I believe. I might be wrong on that, but I know they're doing well. But Cece and Nurse is your second pairing. That's a little troublesome. Like they've been okay, but that's the one spot on the back end I think that can improve. And goaltending.
Yeah, and I have really very little problem with Nurse though.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think you're going to move a $9.5 million or $9.25 million contract at the trade deadline, and nor do I think we should. I think Nurse has done a lot of great things for us this season that are finally starting to get some recognition. But it's CC's spot. That's the one that worries me.
I still, and maybe this is unpopular because he seems to be a popular player, but Desharnais still worries me. Some of the challenges that he has, and as of late, of course, you're not going to to trade this guy because he's responsible for our turnaround. I think in the last year or so, but Ekholm has not been Ekholm since the All-Star break. And we need him to get back. But at the end of the day, we need an upgrade on D for sure. We're not going to get another Ekholm unless if some magic happens, which I would bow down to the person who was able to make that happen.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we got to change something on the D. I think just a little bit of an upgrade is needed. I was pretty happy, obviously, as we all were in that 16-game streak, but maybe it's fatigue, maybe it's something settling in. A little bit of a change would be warranted, I think, going into the last part of the year. Okay, and then now you're saying secondary scoring. Is the idea like a top 6 and you drop one of the other guys down? Or is it just shoot for a bottom 6 guy? I mean, they might only be able to shoot for a bottom 6 guy. That's the thing.
Well, I've been looking at the numbers a little more closely recently, and what did Puckpedia say? It's like if the roster stays as it is between now and the deadline, we're gonna be able to add $2.37 million of annual cap hit. Right. So we're not as dollar in and dollar out as we have been in years past because we're not in LTIR this year. It's like we have a little bit of room to just straight up add. But if you want to add a top 6 forward, then something else is going to have to come off the roster, right? And we're already carrying 21 players and just barely under the cap, right? 13 forwards, 6D, 2 goalies.
Yeah.
So if you can't really add a 14th forward given our roster construction right now, right? So if you're going to add a forward, whether it be a top 6 or a bottom 6, someone's going to have to go, right? The way I see it anyway is Warren Foegele is that guy. Now, he's done a lot of really good things for us this year. He's had some really hot scoring streaks playing in a top 6 role with Leon. And I actually think, based on some of the numbers I was looking at when I was writing about Connor Brown, Warren Foegele was looking like one of our best penalty killers. So
yeah, I mean, the only challenge I ever have with Warren Foegele is he's streaky on the scoring sheet.
yes.
But having said that, he's a solid player. He plays pretty solid. There's not nights where you're banging your head against the wall saying, Foegele, like, what are you doing? It just doesn't happen very often, right? So, I'm not an anti-Foegele guy. We've got a couple minutes. And sorry to take us off track, but we've only got a couple minutes, and then we're gonna say goodnight to you and move on to that the guy who's chirping in the chat, Mr. Bob the goalie. And I'm going to let you take this because he's going to have some words to say about this. But there's now some people saying back to what was argued sort of pre-16 game win streak is the Oilers need goaltending. Does last night change that, or do the Oilers still need goaltending?
So I don't think it's a need, to be totally honest. Like, the organization is basically committed to Stuart Skinner, right? Like, yes, he's young. Yes, he's inconsistent. He can show you elite goaltending for stretches, and he can show you sub-average goaltending for stretches. But come hell or high water, he's the guy. Right, no matter who we have as a backup, come playoff time, Stuart Skinner is getting the start game 1, assuming he's healthy. And now that's the problem. If he's healthy, or if he's not healthy, then we're going with Calvin Pickard or Jack Campbell, right? But It's only a problem if Stuart Skinner gets injured, knock on wood. You can say that about every other team, though. Where would Tampa Bay be without Vasilevsky? Where would Winnipeg be?
Yeah, well, we saw where they were hanging on.
They were hanging on, but not elite. Like, where would the Rangers be without Shesterkin? Right? It's like, you could say that about a lot of teams as number ones.
So, I mean, I guess the question will always be, and I'm going to hope we can hear from Bob about this when he's on, is how much, like, if you look at the Oilers numbers, they rise and fall based on the save percentage of the goalies at any given time, right? Now, having said that, I mean, you can't discount the fact that those save percentages are going to go down if the defense is giving up more high danger chances, right? So, there's a bit of a chicken and an egg here, right? And depending on who you're talking to, right? Like it's goaltending, and in the other scenario, it's defense, and the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. But I would suggest to you that the goaltending definitely needs to be better than it has. But then Skinner and Pickard, who I think Pickard still only has had one bad game since the All-Star break. I thought he's played pretty solid otherwise. He's been our best goalie since the All-Star break, if you ask me. And maybe there's some argument there. I don't know, but I think he played Dallas. I thought he played really solid against Dallas, like tough competition. It's going to be interesting, right? I mean, the Oilers need to do something or decide what they're going to do for plan B in net.
Yeah. I think it's Campbell.
You think, I mean, pre 5 games ago, it was definitely Jack Campbell. I'd say. I'm curious now if that changes. Can it change? I mean, look, in 16 games, we changed everything about our team, right? We didn't need anybody.
Yep.
Does do the last 10 change at all? All right, Lotzi, thanks again for joining. Appreciate you. Thanks for being there at the Heavy Hockey Showdown, raising as much money as you did. You were in the top 5 in fundraising this year. That was outstanding. So a little clap for you on that one. I know you're going to be back. You got any articles upcoming for Heavy Hockey Net?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working with Jeff Aid on a Heavy Hockey Face-Off article, and there's going to I'll have more trade deadline content leading up to the deadline here, and obviously trade deadline wrap. But yeah, so the next week and a bit here is going to be trade deadline focused. So we'll get some more content out on heavyhockey.com here.
That is awesome. All right, this is Oilers Live from the Heavy Hockey Network. Proud to be a friend of Edmonton Sports Talk. When we get back, we're going to have another Heavy Hockey Network writer, the author behind the power rankings on Heavy Hockey Network, goaltender rankings, etc. We never did see Skinner up there, and maybe we won't now. All right, thanks again, Ryan. See you guys after the break. Have a good night. Devin, Bruce, and the rest of the fantasy hockey hacks right here on Edmonton Sports Talk, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Mountain, or tune in at youtube.ca/heavyhockey, and make sure you like and subscribe. Looking for a hockey fix? We've got editorials, fantasy hockey, monthly brackets, and more. Go to heavyhockey.com. Hey, it's Oilers Live Tuesdays, a regular 9 p.m. Mountain Time, now streamed live on edmontonsportstalk.com, or tune in at youtube.ca/heavyhockey. Make sure you subscribe.
Oilers Live Podcast.
Want hockey podcasts? Tough Call Podcast, 99 Forever Podcast, fantasy hockey hacks, and replays of Oilers Live. Available anywhere you get podcasts. Just search for Heavy Hockey Network or go to heavyhockey.com. That's right. We need your help. We need your subscriptions. Make sure you subscribe at www.youtube.ca/heavyhockey.
Live Podcast. Oilers Live Podcast.
Hey, it's Oilers Live, back from the break. My name is Michael, also known as Oilers Live. I've got Mr. Bob the goalie. It looks like you're sitting away from me as far as you possibly can right now. Is that so we can see the wonderful goaltending picture in the background there, Bob?
No, it's just my instinct to try and stay within arm's reach away from you.
Good. Smart. All right. For those of you listening on iHeartRadio or tune in on as a friend of Edmonton Sports Talk, you can find us there or at edmontonsportstalk.com. You might notice my audio levels are a little bit low. We're going to have that fixed. I think I finally found the fix for that next week. So please tune in. Otherwise, come on down to youtube.ca/heavyhockey. While you're here, give us a subscribe, or you can find us on Twitter at heavyhockeynet. Give a follow there too. Bob, we'll start you as well. Talk a little bit, just we'll quickly touch on the Heavy Hockey Showdown. How'd you do out there?
Well, obviously, I deferred the MVP to somebody else, but I pretty much carried probably the bulk of the action.
That was
we may have seen it. I also may need a different prescription. I'm not sure of my contacts, but overall, no. I mean, how much fun was that, right? I mean, why do we play hockey? Most of the time, we play hockey for selfish reasons, right? To to benefit our health, to get out there, to escape from reality, right? Sort of thing. It's our hobby, it's our passion, and it is mine. I jokingly refer to hockey as my religion. And to do this now, to follow one of my passions for such a cause like the Sexual Assault Center of Edmonton, it just gave it a whole new meaning. Like I had so much pride just being on the ice, doing what we were doing, how much fun we were having, but we're doing this for such an amazing cause. So yeah, my heart was very full this weekend and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It was amazing. It was really good. It was good to see you out there. I had a good weekend hanging out with you and the rest of the group. Just fun to be around you guys. And I thought, hey, you're a hell of a defenseman out there. It did wonders. It was great. Of course, I think it might be like when I go up and play center. I'm a defensive center because I'm used to playing defense. So I do have some empathy for the guys on the back end when I'm up playing forward. Do you have some empathy for the goalie as a goalie, as a former goaltender when you're playing defense?
Well, I find that odd that you say you had empathy as a forward when I barely ever saw you on our side of the blue line. But I guess it's
I
funny
only played
because
2 shifts of forward, by the way.
well, that's even scarier than that. I never saw you then on our end. When I play rec league, as a skater, I'm actually usually a forward. I've only been playing defense here since last year, like steadily, because the team I'm on and regular league play, they didn't have any defensemen. So they asked me if I can play defense, and my answer was I can make mistakes at any position, so it doesn't matter. So I've been playing D ever since, and like just last 2 seasons, and I do enjoy it. But if I had my druthers, I like being up there. Do I have empathy? Like I try to play defense the way I wanted my D-men to play when I was a goalie. So I actually, for a guy who plays forward mainly, when I play defense, I am actually a defensive defenseman, and I just stay back and just try and take care of my zone and take away scoring chances. Now I did such a bang up job, Michael, that my D partner got the trophy for scoring the most goals in the tournament. So I don't want to make this about me, but it pretty much was about me.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was thinking. It was they didn't call it the Schmidt Show for nothing, right? They didn't call it the Schmidt Show for nothing. Hey, it was great having you out there. I don't know if we actually did play a shift together, but it was it was still fun being there with you on the bench and in the locker room, and it was a great time. And I hope, and no, I don't hope, I expect to see you out there year over year as we go on this continued journey of the Heavy Hockey Showdown. Again, I'm just going to say this before we move on to talk some Oilers talk. Please, if you got a chance and you know how we can do it, if we can get to the $45,000 mark, we can get an extra 5,000 to put us over 50,000. So if you haven't donated yet, please do. There's I can give you the short URL, is bit.ly/SACE24. So blt.ly/SACE24. You know what? I'm gonna put that in a QR code on the page here. And so if you can do that, that'll take you to my donation code, and that would be great. So if you can do that, every $97, of course, is the equivalent to 1 hour of counseling for somebody who has endured or experienced sexual violence in their life. So please, if you can, make sure that that you can donate to that. Now, having said that, let's talk some Oilers hockey. I mean, we've had, since the last show, we've had Boston, We've had Calgary, and then Minnesota, or Boston, Minnesota, then Calgary, and then the Los Angeles Kings. So that's 4 games since our last episode of Oilers Live. It's quite a few games. Lotzi indicated probably by the time they hit the Flames game, they were a little bit tired. Just thoughts. What was the best game out of those 4?
Out of the the LA game, or was that not the one you mentioned?
Yeah, no, I mentioned the LA game.
Yeah, LA by far. I think the LA game was probably our best game since January when we beat Carolina by the 6-3. I think it was. We finally. I don't often agree with Mark Spector. In fact, I rarely believe Mark Spector. But one of the questions he was asking there in post game to the guys and to Knobloch was LA the type of team you needed to play right now in order for you guys to find your game again, and the pace they play, the forecheck they have, just to find your structure. And I think he's bang on. I think LA, the timing to play LA right now is exactly what the Oilers needed, because now they were able to go back to the type of game that they were playing pretty much over the majority of the streak against a team where it's very, very effective against. So now they're able to find their footing. I do expect for them to string a couple of nice games together here now. This game will give them that kind of confidence, saying, you know what, we didn't completely lose our game. We just kind of stumbled a little bit there now. We're back on track, and let's do some damage.
Yeah. Yeah. And what an important game, right, for the Oilers to come out with. I mean, if you were going to win one of those 4 games, that's the one you had to win, right?
Well, because of the playoff positioning, right? Yeah, obviously. But I find it kind of odd, though, on the LA side. They must have obviously known that the Oilers were kind of stumbling a little bit, and that LA didn't really change their game at all to challenge the Oilers. Like, they actually played pretty much into Edmonton's hands for them to reestablish their game. So you got to take advantage of those opportunities, and I definitely thought that's it's been a while since we pulled in 60 minutes all together, and so this was just perfect timing.
Yeah, it has. And that's I said that when Lotzi was on, which is the Oilers weren't flashy last night, right? Like they. I thought that was foundationally the best game that they played, right, since the big win streak. There was nothing flashy, and they got. Hey, I know you heard because you were on waiting in the wings. But Skinner has been off for a good part of this stretch. He hasn't been great. He's not been the worst goalie in the league, but he hasn't been great. But last night, he came through right at the end. Like, he was outstanding in the last part. You add that, and that was, out of the 16 games that we won, that was how they were winning games. They were playing solid defensively throughout the game, and when Skinner needed to, he made the saves that he needed to.
Well, I would argue that they did that. I would argue that they played that way for 16 games, because there was definitely towards the tail end of that, probably the last 5 games or so of that streak where we fumbled, especially early on. But that's where Skinner and Pickard did do their job, right, in that first half of a game. Held us in there, made some huge saves in games that could have gotten away from us early on. And then our guys found their footing in the second half, especially that third period. I don't know what it is with our third periods, but my goodness, do we ever dominate?
Yeah, and that's kind of still rung true this whole even during this stretch of bad games, right? Like, the Oilers are. I'll tell you this. I mean, we could, it's been 5-4-1 the last 10, and one thing that's a little bit, gives me hope is that the Oilers, with maybe even even in the Calgary game, they still made a go at it. Right. It was their hopes weren't quite dashed until maybe Knobloch, of course, pulled Skinner pretty early in that one. But the Oilers will make a go of any game. Right. Like, this team's they're not out of any game. And I can appreciate that this year, because, we always talk about how explosive they are offensively. But I do love, even during this, what is, we were spoiled for a time, but even as a bad stretch for the Oilers right now, they haven't been out of games, right? Like, they dominated the Minnesota game, I thought, other than on the score sheet, right?
Yeah.
They, and Boston, they played a great game, I thought, like, overall, highly entertaining, I might add, too.
Well, entertaining. I thought, Boston, we scored 5 goals, right? So 5 goals, that should be enough to win. I think the problem is with the Bruins there was the fact they took advantage of every defensive miscue we had, and they potted back to net. Skinner didn't come up with some big saves when we needed it. But we scored 5 goals. So that game was definitely within reach and was winnable. Minnesota, like you said, we dominated that game. I wouldn't change anything about that Minnesota Wild game except for the score. So we just didn't put the puck in. And we hit like 4 or 5 posts that game as well. So that was like we were within an inch of that of taking those 2 points. Calgary overall in this little stretch here was the most disappointing one. You and Lottie touched on it as well, that it was disappointing to see that how they just couldn't seem to get fired up for the Battle of Alberta. You're right, though. They're never really out of it. Having said that, they only played maybe 8 minutes of good hockey against Calgary when they started making that comeback. But you can just never, ever, ever count out a team that has Connor McDavid on it. And not just Connor McDavid, but the supporting cast. I know he's the catalyst, but these guys will jump on his, grab his coattails and just, help support the cause. So I tweeted it out there in the Calgary game because already we were down. People were already tweeting about the fact that, oh, I'm done. These guys have checked out. I'm not wasting my time on this garbage. We've seen it time and time again where the Oilers are down 3 goals or what have you, and they come back. And they come back and they either, tie it up or even end up winning or at least make it competitive. So you can't just walk away whenever Connor McDavid is on a team and hits the ice, because you just never know. You just never know with this group.
Yeah, you really don't. And let's talk about Connor McDavid, because he took that big hit from Coleman. It seems as of late, and I can appreciate that last night it sounds like it was a skate issue. He ended up going to the back room. But that's not the first time we've seen him go walk off the ice a little gingerly of late. And I'd argue he's played one of his most physical seasons ever this year. And this is not about other people playing physical with him. This is about Connor McDavid. Like, he's got to be in the top 3 hitters on our team, right? I would suspect. I haven't looked at those stats, but let's have a look while I'm saying this. Any concerns from you? I mean, is this? We're 54 games, 56 games in, 56 games in.
Yeah, 56 games in, and Connor McDavid is second on the team for forwards in body checks.
Yeah,
like Evander Kane it leads us in forwards. So
yeah. Any concerns for you? I mean, when I see that Coleman hit, like, how long can this guy play this physical of hockey and then go into what we hope is going to be a long playoffs?
I think this is a skill that he's developing, and it's also him showing how much he wants this. So I think this is going to be the game he plays down this drive, down the playoffs. Like, he started throwing his body around last season in the playoffs already punched. Like, the first game of the playoffs, he threw more hits in a game than he'd thrown in a game that whole season.
But here's my thinking. Like, that's fine, because we're there. We're in the playoffs. Like, you 16 to however many games it takes to win the Stanley Cup, right? But we're in game 56, right? And he's second on the team in among forwards in hitting. He's getting hit like the Coleman hit. night after night. We know he already had a injury at a certain point this year. Like, can Connor McDavid go the whole season playing the way he's playing?
Well, we're hoping he doesn't always have to. So, yeah, so last season it was for the playoffs, right? So, yeah, that's fine because we're already there. But we've basically been playing playoff hockey for the majority of the season because that huge hole they dug right off the bat. So now, too early in the season, we were having must-win games all of a sudden. And so Connor McDavid is already in playoff mode. And, yeah, that might I guess you run the risk of an injury there for the style that he's playing, but it's also something that he sees as a captain that needs to be done. So he's not just preaching it, he's walking the talk, and hopefully, guys like, well, you saw Janmark do it already. Sheesh, Janmark's already become our designated goon all of a sudden, but and
that
not
was
just
one of the most one-sided fights I've seen in a long time. And I didn't expect it to be talking about Janmark that way. And Coleman's no slouch, right? Like, this is a guy that, like, but Janmark pummeled him. Like, that wasn't even close. I mean, I yelled from the seats, like, we shouldn't even be giving Coleman 5 for fighting there because he didn't fight. That was only Janmark that, like, bam, like, that was out. Loved it. Highlight of the night. The only good thing that happened that night.
I jumped off.
Too.
I jumped up during the fight at the game. I jumped up and started jumping up and down like I was 4 years old and just saw Santa Claus come through the door. Like it was that exciting for me.
You didn't make a fool of yourself. I saw it.
That's my daily life. So.
Yeah.
We had Bruce McCurdy on the 97 Octane yesterday, and McCurdy brought up the fact that Janmark's last fight was when he was in Vegas, his only other NHL fight, and he fought then Nick Cousins and also just tuned him in. So he's had 2 NHL fights that were just dominating on his side. So I don't know. He got rewarded for some top 6 ice time, not because of the fight, but just his overall play. He's been playing. Like his last,
it was because of the fight. I mean, he's played well, but that's what secured it for him. I
think it put him over the edge. I think it put him over the top.
Absolutely, put him over the edge. Exactly.
Yeah, but he's strung in 5 great games together already. Like he's finding his game.
People forget he played a lot of first line minutes in Vegas.
Yeah,
when they were dealing with injury, so he's got the capability. He's been he's been saddled alongside Connor Brown. Sadly, a good part of this year, who is yet to find his game, although he's been close. I mean, the guy, you can just sense it from him, though. The confidence isn't there. The confidence for him to even score an empty netter isn't there. Like, even last night he had the puck on his stick, and I sensed the hesitation, right? Like, he doesn't want the gimme. Obviously, but he needs to take it. He needs to take one. He's got to get the reader out of him or whatever it is. But oh man, I tell you, I had a Connor Brown like weekend, and I did score a couple at pickup on Friday. But
I feel for the guy. I really do.
What's that?
I feel for the guy. I really do, and he is doing a great job on the penalty kill, but we didn't get him to be a penalty kill specialist. We got him for secondary scoring at the time.
We got him for scoring 20, right? Like, isn't that what we all hoped for? It was 20.
Well, we hoped for it, but I'll be honest. Like, even in my preseason predictions, I was hesitant about the injury because I know what a big injury that was. I had him down for like 8 goals. I'm hoping for double digits. That's it. I got laughed at because everybody's like, well, he'll score 20, maybe even 30 playing with Connor McDavid. And now my 8 goals looks like it was too high of a projection. So,
well, it doesn't look like it was too high. Like, he's not doing 8 this year, but we'd be happy with 2 or 3. And if he can if he can get that scoring touch back, and you never know with a guy like him, if he can, start potting a couple. He's had his chances. He's hit enough posts. He's probably hit more posts than most of the players on the team.
My fingers are cramped from crossing them all game for him every time I see him on the ice. So my Connor, like, man, like I said, he is playing hard. He's playing. He definitely works hard out there. He made a great pass to Nuge there for the goalie against the Kings. But in all honesty, the Connor Brown experiment for me is done. He's played. He himself has now played 48 games and still nothing. He's had some top 6 time and nothing. He's had opportunities. It just isn't working. I think it's time that we bring Gagne in more and more. And in all honesty, Connor Brown has become a penalty kill specialist because even his 5-on-5 defense isn't really that great. It's just that he seems to be really focused on the penalty kill, and he does a great job at it. But we have other guys that can do that and contribute in other ways.
Yeah. And I guess that's the case, right? Is if there weren't other guys that could fill that role, then I would be all right with keeping him. But he's not the only one that can do what he's doing. And I think Lotzi's put it out there quite succinctly. His wherever he is, he's dragging down right now the players he's playing with, and so that's the sad fact. You could get as many posts as you want, but at some level, you hope that the rest of the players at least are benefiting from your play. It's like that guy in every rec league that, except it's the opposite of that guy, the guy that scores 20 but he's on the ice for 40, right? Like we all know that guy, like, and some guy, everybody in the team's hey, he's scoring 20, but then as a defenseman you're out there and you're like, yeah, but where is he when I need him? Right? He's never there. It's the opposite for Brown. He's just he's out there, he's getting minutes, and he's not there when you need him. I don't see him trying to get a dirty goal, for that matter. I figured a guy like that, like, if you haven't scored a goal, like, we got on McLeod for a while, right? Get to the front of the net, right? Try to get a stick on it. Do something a little bit different. Like, try something, and you got to think that the coaching staff has been on him. Anyway, we've probably spent hours on the show talking about Connor Brown. And that's too bad. All right, we got the St. Louis Blues coming up. We got about 15 minutes left. Talk about the Blues. They are 4 points back of a wild card spot, which surprises me. They're 4 points back with a couple games in hand. So, they could do it.
So, for me, it's these are my 2 favorite teams. Like, so St. Louis is my second favorite team because they're the ones who gave me, a shot at at a professional level. So I always my heart's kind of with them on that one. But they are a middle of the pack team right now that is fighting hard for a playoff spot and seem to be finding their stride now in the right moment for them. Bennington's finally found his form a bit. Kyrou seems to be playing a lot more confidence. Robert Thomas is proving that he's an all-star player. Probably their best forward at this point.
Thomas is outstanding. Like, he is absolutely outstanding.
I'm really impressed by his vision. Like, I've always known he was a good skater and has a half-assed decent shot, but his vision of the game is impressed me for offensively and defensively. So they're going to be a test. They took it to us last time, 6-3. I think this could be a good statement game for our boys.
Now, I look up and down this St. Louis Blues lineup, and obviously one of the challenges you're going to have with this lineup is offense, right? Like, there's just, when Robert Thomas is your guy, right? And he's good, don't get me wrong, but he's not, he's Hyman good, right? Like, or like he's not going to be the superstar on every team, right? Yeah. Jordan Kyrou, is good as well, and Bushnavish, but that's not a line that strikes fear, and that's your top line, right? Defense, I mean, they look pretty solid, right? Like a couple of veterans, like they just look like the kind of team that would benefit from Jacques Lemaire, right? Like this, good defense, and Bennington, when he's on, right? He's a top goalie when he's playing really well. Torrey Krug is he's outstanding, right? And can really be a difference maker. Colton Parayko, we know, Leddy, Falk, all these guys. Like, it's just a solid. I think they're not certainly not awful on D. I don't know that it's the best D core in the league, but if they do make it in, I don't think they're going very far in the playoffs. Unless Bennington goes on a tear,
which is possible, right?
Yeah,
and he's done it before. So St. Louis, so I think you used the right word there when you described them as solid. You're absolutely right. There's no player that jumps out at you as saying this is the guy, this is their guy, this is our franchise player. There's no sexy player on this team. They rely on depth. They rely on hard work. They rely on structure.
To that point, and sorry to cut you off, Brandon Saad is sitting on the third line, right?
Yeah.
He's a good player. He's a guy I'd love on our third line, right? Kasperi Kapanen, right? Anyway, sorry, carry on.
No, you're absolutely right, and that speaks to the strength of their depth, right? So to have Saad on there, who he's a gamer if there ever was one. He likes to get into the dirty stuff. He works hard. Like, they're a formidable opponent, and they've shown it time and time again. But yet, I do think overall they're actually a bit underrated because nobody ever speaks of the Blues too much. Sometimes they almost seem like an afterthought, but that probably goes in their favor, flying below the radar a little bit and surprising some teams. They can do some damage. They've done it before. A lot of those guys are still there, and they know what it takes to get there, and they know what it takes to get it done, and they're finding their stride in the nick of time.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's the I mean, it's not though the Rileys aren't on this team anymore, so that really took them down the path.
Peter Angelo, right?
Yeah. I mean, they had some really key parts, but these guys have been there. Some of them have been there for sure. Bennington was there, obviously. You're right. I mean, they could a team like that could benefit from a couple of those just getting behind each other and doing all the right things. I mean, the Oilers made it in 2006, right? And you just don't know what to expect with a team like this, as solid up and down the lineup as they are. What can we expect from the Oilers against them tomorrow? Are you thinking LA game or more Calgary game? They're still they're jamming a bunch of games in a row here, right? Like, this might not be a back-to-back, but they haven't had a lot of rest.
No, but I don't know if it's just the guys saying the right things in the interviews, but guys like games. Like, they like games more than practices. So now they get a bunch of games. So I think now, if you focus on the positive, if you find your stride now, and you get a bunch of games strung together now, we do have a couple of back-to-backs coming up. You get in that
Blues
rhythm.
Are on the tail end of a back-to-back, and they're playing a tough one in Winnipeg tonight.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the top teams in the league right now, Winnipeg, for sure. And so now, you find your stride. Like, that's one of the things that the All-Star break did to us. We kind of lost our stride a bit, right? Even though we were getting wins together. But that break kind of now you got to restart. So now we have a chance to kind of find our rhythm again, maybe string, a few wins together here and there. Here's the other thing too. So Novak broke the season down to 8 game segments. And now I think we're in our 4th 8-game segment. So we've gone 8-0, 5-8-0, and 5-3. So we're going into our 5th game segment. One of those segments where we went 5-3, we actually lost the first 3 games in that segment, and then strung 5 together. So currently in this 8-game segment, we are at 3-3. So we can still make this 5-3 segment. That was Novak's goal, to say that if we go 5-3 every segment, we should make the playoffs. And kind of what you alluded to here just a little while ago, once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. Oilers did it in 06. Philly's done it. Dallas did it not that long ago. Montreal did it not that long ago. That second season is just everybody starts at 0.
Yeah, and that is something I hold out hope for, because I think that this is a team that we know has the capability to make a run in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They've been good.
Take
They've been good every playoffs last couple of years, right? Like people think they didn't go all the way, so they weren't
Yeah.
good. There was no gimmies against the Oilers when they did lose, right? Even the Colorado series was close, right?
Oh,
I mean, it was 4 games close, but whatever. But
if you believe in
Yeah.
signs, we had a 16-game win streak, and it takes 16 wins to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I do. I had thought about this the other day, which is I'm glad the streak happened when it did. Because, the Oilers, now we know them to be a bit of a streaky team. You want to go into the playoffs on a high, right? I mean, that's, most players will tell you that, right? It's the one thing that everybody knows is you want to be playing your best when you come playoff time. And the Oilers are, obviously right now they're not. So they've got some time. They've got some time to work out the kinks now, right? We're in the second half of the season. They've got some time to do what they need to do. They put themselves into a spot where they're buyers at the deadline, right? Which is what we want year over year, right? You certainly don't want to be in the Flames predicament, which is, are we a buyer or are we a seller right now? They don't even know, right? And and the St. Louis Blues, same situation, right? Like if you could go out and buy as the St. Louis Blues and completely, lose and not even make the playoffs, right? Which is a complete waste. Or you can upgrade, and so the Oilers have at least done that. They've got rid of that from going from a team that I think Puck Money thought was a low percentage team to even make the playoffs at one point is now a high percentage team. They're not out of the woods yet. They still, got to keep playing as they're playing, but it's good. I think this is all right. I mean, the Oilers, you win big stretches so that you can lose a couple. I mean, everybody's talking about the Oilers. There's a lot of teams going on. Little Bends right now. Vegas and Vancouver are 2 major ones.
Well, you also learn more in your losses, right? So, like, you do need to lose some games as much as you don't want to. I mean, it'd be ideal to 2-0, obviously, but like you don't so much in the wins because whatever's working. 16-game win streak. The last 5 games, we actually didn't play the greatest, but we're finding ways to win. Right. But you don't want to change too much because you're winning, and wins are what matters. So now when you start getting some losses together, okay, now we can make this, and it's kind of like a 1 step back, 2 steps forward kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing though for me in this stretch after the All-Star break is where did the defense go? Like why all of a sudden? I mean, this is the big mystery for me. Right. And maybe Bob, maybe you know the answer because the defense was pretty solid during the win streak. Like that was one of the things that really changed for the Oilers was just how solid they were playing. And then they come back and seemingly forgot every positioning assignment, forgot how to play the zone that they were playing successfully for 16 games. They found it last night against LA. I guess it remains to be seen if they've found it again. Interestingly enough, there are 3 teams kind of out of the top sort of 10 in the league right now that aren't in a slump. So it's the Panthers, Maple Leafs, and the Rangers. Panthers are 8-2-0. Maple Leafs are 8-2-0. Rangers are 9-1-0. But you got the Bruins at 3-2-5. Philly at 5-4-1, and I can't believe I'm even saying they're in the top teams in the league, but they're 5-4-1. Yeah, that's a success story right there. Nobody's talking enough about that. Maybe they are, and I'm just not listening. But so you got, and even the Hurricanes are 6-3-1, so they're not blowing it out of the water. Although I'd be happy with 6-3-1 right now. But in the West, there's no team that's really like in the top that are in that outside of the wild card spot. They're 4-3-3 Dallas, 6-4-0 Winnipeg, 3-5-2 Colorado, right? Like that's big. 4-5-1 Vancouver, they were fighting for President's Trophy. They still are at 82 points, and they're 4-5-1. So we're not having another repeat of the Boston Bruins season. We know that. 4-5-1 Vegas, and then 5-4-1 Oilers. And in oil country, I mean, you've been on Twitter. It's about to explode outside of last night. This is not that bad. The Kings are 7-3-0. I guess that, they're catching up, but we beat them. Right?
I think that's the issue. We're not looking at too many people aren't looking at the big picture. We're looking at this team creeping up behind us, which is the Kings also grab momentum, right? But yeah, we are keeping pace with the other powerhouse teams in the West. We are still one of the powerhouse teams in the West, I believe. I think these losing streaks are the anomaly. Like we haven't this is our first 3-game losing streak since we had an 8-game win streak, then we lost 3, then we won 16, and we've only lost 3 in a row once again after that. I think winning streaks are the norm for this team over the losing streaks. Obviously not 16. I mean that's quite the adventure and historic. But to string 4 or 5 wins here and there, that is more normal for this group losing 3 in a row.
Yeah. That's your voice of positivity. Bob, thank you for having you on. Thank you for playing in the Heavy Hockey Showdown. I'm going to give you the last word. We got about 40 seconds left. Just love having you being part of the Heavy Hockey Net. Glad to call you a friend. And Lotzi, if you're out there and you're listening, thanks for being on. Glad to have you as a friend too. And the rest of the Heavy Hockey Net guys. You got 30 seconds. You got the last word.
Special weekend. It's a special group. Heavy Hockey Network is fantastic. Proud to be a part of, friends of the Edmonton Sports Talk for sure. And glad they were involved in it as well. It just made it that much more epic. I'm going to close off by saying Stuart Skinner is going to be a top 10 NHL, if not by the end of this year.